Connor Bedard makes his first trip to Dallas along with the Chicago Blackhawks to take on the Dallas Stars a couple of times before the new year. We'll preview Chicago, but first we must talk about Scott Wedgewood, who has been so good and very busy for the Dallas Stars as of late. That and more coming up next on Locked On Stars.
Your Locked On Stars, your daily podcast on the Dallas Stars. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Howdy, Stars fans, and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Stars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. It's a pleasure to be with you. I'm Joey Erickson, former producer of 105 Through the Fan and play-by-play voice of the Chippewa Steel. Be sure to subscribe. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. And as always, thank you so much for making us a part of your day and making us your first listen. Yes, Connor Bedard is making his first appearance in Dallas. And not only do we get him once, we get him twice before the new year. A special matchup between the Blackhawks and Stars should be a fun way to wrap up 2023. We'll certainly preview the Blackhawks, and I'll give my shooting star pick. We got one right against the Blues. Robertson did score. Unfortunately, the result was not the way we wanted. We'll also do a 2023 year in review. A lot of ups and downs, but a lot of positives as well. What was your favorite moment of 2023? But first, we need to talk about Scott Wedgewood, who has been very busy. And are they going to get him some rest anytime soon during this stretch? I'll give my take and a few of my observations from the Wedge wall here as of late. But first, today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. Download the Sleeper app and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL to get up to $100 on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. So we start with Scott Wedgewood because I wanted to give a breakdown over these last few weeks since he took over for Otter, and he has been the most busy goaltender in terms of shots in the National Hockey League. So dating back to when Otter went out on December 15th with that lower body injury, he came in and he made 27 saves in the win. He's also been so special heading into last game against St. Louis. Scott Wedgewood had been unbeaten in 10 straight games in regulation, mind you. He did lose to St. Louis in overtime in one of those games, but had not been beaten in regulation for over 10 games. The Stars have played really well in front of him, and he's a 9-2-2 record so far in his 13 starts on the season. I guess 12 starts with the one he came in, but it was pretty much a start. His numbers aren't anything to jump up and down about, so to speak, but he's kept the Stars in a lot of games. 3.00 goals against average and a .905 save percentage. But here are some numbers from the last 6 starts, or 5 starts, I should say, along with the 6th game in Ottawa. So he has faced the most amount of shots since that time in the National Hockey League. 170 shots faced. He has a .906 save percentage and a 2.70 goals against average. So a tick better than his overall numbers throughout the season. But he's up there with the likes of Vasilevsky, who's faced 154. And if you look at some of the shots faced numbers, I mean, he's by far and away received the most rubber throughout this stretch. And his numbers hold up with a few of the best. I mean, look at Ilya Sorokin, who's considered one of the best goaltenders in all of National Hockey, the Hockey League, and he's faced 130 shots. He's 2-1, and he's an .885 save percentage and a 4.00 goals against average. So I think you have to take this as a great sign that your backup is playing with, some of the better goaltenders, or at least up to that level at some points during this stretch. And he has been no means I guess, lights out or a total brick wall. But man, he has made some really, really tough saves. The only reason the Stars were in the game against St. Louis was because of him, especially on that 5-on-3. He battles. He's athletic. He usually has really consistent rebound control, along with the Stars being a bit tighter defensively. I think Wedgewood has been a really, really glue piece for the Stars team when things could go really wrong here with Otter out in the next few weeks, foreseeably. He's been a great sign for Dallas. And more importantly, though, even if the numbers aren't nothing to scoff at, he's tied for the most wins during that stretch, up there with Shesterkin and Georgiev with 4 wins. So that's all that matters at the end of the day. Sometimes you're going to be leaky. Sometimes the Stars aren't going to be great. But look, he's finding a way to win games, and so are the Stars. Unfortunately, you probably should have beat St. Louis, but you spotted them a 2-0 lead and unable to pull yourself out of that. And this now, I want to segue into, when are we going to get Matt Murray for the first time? Because I don't think you want to hammer Scott Wedgewood here a ton. I feel like today would be a great spot for Murray. He played 3 games last season. He had his first career start in Chicago, actually, and he did beat them. That's his lone win in his NHL career so far, and he only made 19 saves in the contest. His other 2 were really bad against Vancouver, a couple losses, and he allowed more than 3 in both of those games, but that was towards the end of the year. Stars already solidified themselves as a top 3 team, of course, trying to play for advantage, or home ice advantage, I should say. But Otter needed a rest, so they had to play Matt Murray a couple times because they were riding Otter so much towards the end of the year. So, Wedgewood has already played in 6 straight, and you have some winnable games, so I completely understand wanting to put your best foot forward, but you need to get Wedgewood a rest within the next 2 weeks. I think today would be a great option to get Murray a look. Then you have Wedgewood for New Year's Eve. Of course, that's a big game. Have Wedgewood in the pipes there. And then you kind of you have a few more days off in between your next contest with Montreal in 2024. And there's no back-to-backs until the very end of this next 10-game stretch. You have a back-to-back with Nashville and I think Chicago again as you meet the Blackhawks for a 3rd time. So more than likely, you're going to see Murray in either the first or second game of that back-to-back if Otter is still out. We still don't have an update on Otter. I would think more, if I had to speculate, you were going to find something out next week in 2024 to see where he's at, because he was listed as a week-to-week basis. So I think you need to try to find 2 games to rest Wedgewood here in the next 5 games, just to keep him fresh as well. I understand you want to win games and collect points as you go, but you got to have some fresh guys, especially in between the pipes. You don't want to just completely lean on Wedgewood, which this is sort of a new experience for him in a lot of ways. He's not ever been a number 1 netminder, and he's not really a number 1, I guess, per se in this situation. He's certainly playing like one, to be honest. He's playing at the same level as Otter to some degree as of this season. And I just think it's really important that you get Wedgewood some rest here in the next few weeks. Give Murray a few starts, and then Otter should be coming back here about middle to January, you would think, and then you're hitting the ground running there, and then you can definitely go back to your regular scheduled programming with Otter and Wedgewood. But I just think Wedgewood has been so good, but he's been very, very busy. As I mentioned, he was unbeaten in his last 10 games. He's made 6 straight starts now. If he starts today, it'll be 7. And then do you want to play him on New Year's Eve as well with just a 1-day rest? It's new territory for Wedgewood. And at some point, I think you got to get Murray in there. I think tonight would be a great opportunity against a Chicago team that he has beaten before, albeit it's a completely different looking team. And they have Connor Bedard, who is lighting the league on fire already. But I think Wedgewood needs a relaxation period, get him fresh, and have him ready for this really important stretch. As I mentioned, this now 8 games remaining in this stretch where you're taking on division opponents. You're at home. You got to find a way to win games, not surrender 2-goal leads constantly, because that does catch up to you at some point. It did against St. Louis, and this is where you can really make some hay. So I would love to push Wedgewood to the brink to some degree too, but I just don't think it's I don't think it's the best decision in the big picture of the entire entire season. But there's also the take of, well, you might as well ride him now because when Otter comes back, he's going to play a ton. So I think it's a great balance, but I think it's more important that Wedgewood is fresh and healthy when Otter gets back, so you can resume your kind of 1-2 punch. And you can't do that with him just, totally outworked, especially with the amount of shots he's already received. And the Stars are giving up a ton of shots, as I touched on. 170 shots faced is the most so far in this stretch since Otter went down on December 15th. But more importantly, Wedgewood's been awesome. The Wedgewall has been fantastic. Maybe we get our first look at Matt Murray here in the next 2 games. Who knows? But Wedgewood has certainly taken the reins and is not letting them go, which is an even more important sign for the Dallas Stars. So, Stars taking on Connor Bedard and the Chicago Blackhawks tonight. Let's preview those Blackhawks and then give your shooting star pick as well. And we'll do that in just a moment. Our next sponsor of Locked On Stars is AG1. Do you need a daily foundational nutrition supplement that supports whole body health? Then you need AG1. You don't have to take a ton of pills, like 6 or 7 pills a day. You just drink AG1. You can take it before your workout. You can take it while you're having your coffee. You get up, you start your day, take AG1, and it can give you so many great nutritional bases. It covers them all, and you just have to take it once. You don't have to take a bunch of pills, which can be so hard. And some of the best athletes take AG1 because it gives them all their nutritional supplements, and they don't have to worry about taking a ton of stuff and a ton of time to get your day started. It promotes energy, focus, strength, and clarity because it has 75 high-quality ingredients that give you the key daily nutrients your body needs. All great athletes have one thing in common. They do take care of their bodies, and a huge part of that is with optimizing whole body health, and AG1 will help you do that. It is so awesome. So go ahead and try AG1. If a comprehensive solution is what you need from your supplement routine, then try AG1. Get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase. Go to drinkag1.com/NHL network. That's drinkag1.com/NHL network. Check it out. So the Dallas Stars looking to bounce back here a few times before the new year. Just a heads up, I will not be able to cover the game like I usually do sometimes with, your final score graphics and stuff like that. I get my thoughts and opinions I'm throwing out there. I'll be covering a game tonight for the team I work for. So I'll be busy tonight, but I'll be certainly watching it after to take in Connor Bedard in his first trip to Dallas. By the way, thank you to all you everydayers out there and all you Locked On Stars faithful that make this podcast your first listen and engage and leaving your comments. Be sure to leave your shooting star comment here, as I'll give mine in a few minutes as well. Much appreciative as we're heading into 2024. So Connor Bedard, well, I think we got to start there. And man, he's so good. He really is. He's kind of lived up to the entire bill, and a lot of it, including myself, I thought was a bit of an overreaction. And at some points I was like, man, they are just really riding the coattails of this kid. And hey, by all means, he's been everything and then some, and he's handled it with such a professionalism about him at just 18 years old, with some of the stuff that's already gone on in the Corey Perry situation, and Taylor Hall going down right away. Once they get back to kind of surrounding him with a lot of great pieces, because they just don't quite have it, man, they're going to be a lot of fun to watch. And they're 8th place right now in the Central Division, and hasn't been pretty, but picked up a win the other night against Winnipeg where Bedard scored twice. He already has 15 on the year, 32 points in the first 34 games for the rookie. Philip Kurashev is a guy he plays with that I think is really good too, very underrated. He's a good young player, and he's 24, which is pretty crazy to think of the age gap between Bedard and Kurashev, but they don't score a lot. and they give up a lot too. But they're getting some steady net mining recently from Peter Mrazek. He's 9-11 on the year, a 9-11 save percentage, and a 2.98 goals against average. And him being a bright spot for the Blackhawks have allowed them to win some games here as of late. And really stay competitive. They have a lot of injuries too. Seth Jones is out on the back end. They have a really big physical back end too. So this will be a good test for the Stars. And, they haven't played very, dominating hockey here in about a month or so. Really, since that 8-1 victory over Tampa Bay at home, they haven't had a total dominating performance as of late. It's been a lot of close games, and that's what you kind of get at this point too. I think games 30 through 50 to some degree, teams are trying to figure themselves out, giving their last push before kind of the trade deadline peaks in, and you really find out who you are. So I think this will be a really, really fun test for the Stars here against the Blackhawks a few times. Former star Jason Dickinson's coming to town, and he's lighting the lamp this year. Already 11 goals, which is a career high. His recent was 9. So he's already finding his scoring touch here, especially lately, man. He's been able to find the back of the nets quite often. The Stars can take advantage, and this will be key, as special teams. Their PK's been brilliant. They're second in the NHL at 87%, and they need to take advantage of their power play more importantly. Only clipping at about 19%. They've dipped to about middle of the pack, and that statistic, pretty much every offensive category and even defensive category is in favor of the Stars here. I would like to see it play out. Don't give this team a lot of hope. You got to keep Bedard off the score sheet, which is easier said than done because he's real crafty and he's going to get his looks. You kind of have to live with that. And he's just so shifty, and man, he's got a wicked wrister, man. If he gets that thing off in space, it's going to end up behind you in a hurry. So it'll be really important to keep Connor Bedard off the score sheet. Easier said than done, of course, but the Stars should be able to dominate this game. It's a young team. They're going the wrong way. It would be nice to make these next 3 matchups against the Blackhawks just clean them up, pick up your 2 points, and get ready for New Year's Eve. Don't allow this team to hang around. The power play needs to get going. Maybe this is a time to spark that and find their game once again here, because they were playing a lot of 1-goal games and they got to score first. I think that's just one of the biggest keys of the entire night. Just score first. They've surrendered a lot of first goals in their last 10 games. At one point, it was 7 straight in the month of December alone. They had surrendered the first goal. They need to score first. Just get out, play on your toes a bit, and they've been very good at home. They've won 4 straight at the American Airlines Center, and they have a big stretch of games here now. Their next 6, out of their 8, are at home. So you have a chance here to do some real damage at the American Airlines Center and lengthen that gap, hopefully take possession. They drop down to second place in the Central Division because Arizona was able to take care of business in overtime against Colorado. Beautiful 4-goal comeback. 5 unanswered for Arizona. And then Winnipeg, of course, fell to Chicago. So this segues in to my shooting star pick for tonight. We got one right here on the week. I went with Jason Robertson. He did score. Unfortunately, it was not enough for the Dallas Stars. So my shooting star pick for tonight, Jamie Benn, the captain, is scoreless on the power play. Goalless, I should say, on the power play this season. Boom. He gets one tonight on the man advantage. He has a big night. So does that Johnston line, which could really use it at home. And hopefully Jamie Benn will lead the way to a Dallas Stars victory. He has been a bit disappearing lately. I haven't seen a lot of him. And we could use a vintage Jamie Benn effort. Let's continue that Bennaissance that we saw from last season and how amazing it was. Speaking of last season and the whole year in general, I thought it'd be fun to do a bit of a 2023 in review, since I will not be with you until 2024 on Monday. So just taking a look at a broad picture of 2023, even some statistics, maybe that some surprise you, maybe some that don't. So a year in review coming up next year on Locked On Stars. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is also brought to you by Sleeper. Sleeper is a great place to play daily fantasy hockey. It's almost the halfway point of the season. There's been a lot of ups and downs from the Dallas Stars this year for sure, but regardless of where the Stars are in the standings, you got to win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is our number one choice for daily fantasy sports and especially daily fantasy hockey, because with Sleeper, you win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. All you got to do is pick the studs like your McDavids, your McKinnons of the world, even plop up on the couch, watch a Stars game, maybe throw Miro out there, throw Sagans, who's having a great year, Duchesne, and just pick more or less on certain sleeper projections like goals, assists, plus minus, or more in a given game, and you can win 100 times your bet on Sleeper. You heard me, Stars fans. All you got to do is correctly predict the outcome of 8 player stats, and you can win 100 times your money playing daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper. So start paying attention, nail your picks so you can start winning big, and you can do that by using promo code LOCKEDONNHL. And you'll get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code Locked On NHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and with location availability. So 2023 has brought a lot of highs and some lows as well for the Dallas Stars. But I think sometimes it's a fun time to reminisce, have some nostalgia, and think about what has happened over the course of an entire year for the Dallas Stars. First, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel, by the way, on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe right now. Go over to Locked On Sports and then come back, subscribe. First ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel covering all the top stories with our national shows covering every league as well. But as I was talking about, so the year of 2023, of course, the Stars last spring went to the Western Conference Finals and then bowed out in 6 games to the Vegas Golden Knights. Just ran into a stalwart. And of course, we're the Stanley Cup champs. They've done that a lot in the last 5 years too. They've usually bowed out to the eventual Stanley Cup champions. Tampa Bay once in the Stanley Cup final. They had the Blues before that. And then, well, I guess Calgary was not even close. But then, of course, last season to the Vegas Golden Knights. But there were some crazy performances. I would love to know your favorite moment from 2023 if one pops into mind. 4-goal game for Joe Pavelski in game 1 of the semifinals against the Seattle Kraken comes to mind. I mean, that was a really, really special thing. Unfortunately, Stars did not win that game. But a 4-goal performance for Joe to send the game to overtime. Game 7 against Minnesota was spectacular. The goal from Rope to open the scoring there. Game 7, or not Game 7 against Minnesota, Game 6, excuse me. But then Game 7 against the Kraken as well. Rope gets the scoring started, and then Wyatt Johnston with that incredible, pretty much dagger against Seattle from the goal line on his back end comes to mind as well. So it's a ton of good, but I also went ahead and checked some of the, I guess, stats you could say just from a year in Dallas Stars hockey. So the Stars played 77 games, and this is just the regular season. And probably no surprise, Robertson leads the way in scoring, 87 points. He leads the team in goals with 32 goals in 2023. Joe Pavelski's right behind him, and not really right behind him. There's a 16-point gap between Robertson and Pavelski. Pavelski has 71 points. And then it's Miro Heiskanen at third at 67 points in 77 games. You have Ben, who had an incredible Renaissance, of course, and he's been off and running here this season at 63. And then you have Rope at 62, and then a pretty solid gap between him and Sagan. But Miro led the team in assists in the year 2023. He had 57 helpers, which is no surprise. A ton of those came on the power play. He had 27 power play points. Power play goals, however, were led by the 39-year-old Joe Pavelski. He had 13 power play goals in 2023. Robertson led the way in power play points with 29. No surprise there. Even strength points, I thought was another one that kind of popped out to my eye. Robertson with 58, but then you have Rope down at 43. So he's been great at 5-on-5 or even strength. And then, of course, Joe Pavelski continues to be a menace at 48 points a game. So Robertson averaged over a point a game in 2023. He was the only star to do so, and Joe Pavelski was close there at 0.92 points per game. Another stark difference, or I should say an eye-popping number, was the face-off percentage. Jamie Benn won 60% of his draws this year. Man, he's been pretty much automatic, and he has been for a few years now. The Stars in general have been great in the dots, but that was another one that really popped out to me. Shots. So just shots on goal. Jason Robertson, no surprise, 251. And I mean, he leads that by a huge margin. Guess who's second? Miro Heiskanen with 181. A stark difference in shots. And Sagan's up there as well, tied with Pavelski at 167. And there's a host of stars, but I thought that was a huge difference. Of course, Robertson shoots the pill a ton, and he gets a lot of chances. That's why he scores so much. But, man, almost 70 shots difference between him and Miro, I thought was very stark and really stood out for me in 2023. So would love to hear your favorite moments from this season. Of course, the Stars bowed out in the Western Conference Finals, but of course, there's been a ton of great performances and a lot of fun along the way. Hopefully this year of 2024 here in the next few days will bring a lot of special things for the Dallas Stars, and we'll all be here to enjoy it. So I want to thank everybody once again for a wonderful year here on Locked On Stars. Of course, I took over after the summer and into the season, but man, the channel continues to grow. All the support and the feedback has been phenomenal. Just love engaging with you guys every day, talking Stars hockey, watching the games, and just being along for the ride. It's been a ton of fun, and I've really enjoyed doing this. So I hope I've been able to entertain and at some points bring some logical and good stuff, arguments, takes, whatever it is along the way. I do my best to craft something every day for you guys, and it always helps when the Stars are winning. And they'll try to get back in the win column here tonight. A couple of more games before 2024, both against the Blackhawks. Connor Bedard in his first trip to Dallas. Should be a fun one, so enjoy the rest of your Friday. Enjoy Stars hockey tonight, and we will see you in 2024, Stars fans. So long.